The 12-stall cabin. My adopted family is all I have ever known.
I don't know what my real parents looked like, my birthday or when my real parents left me at Catherine's and John's.
What I did know is that I was thankful
It was a family where all the kids were coming from the same situation
I was in. I was also grateful that we loved each other, and best of all, Catherine and John had come
into some serious money.
That way, me and my 8 brothers could all go to school. Although it cut back on clothes supplies, I didn't mind. The only people that we were concerned about
clothing were Catherine and my 3 sisters. Because of the lack of clothing, my brothers and I took turns with a few pairs of shoes
we had. When it wasn't my turn, I would hop from pile to pile of cow manure. It kept my feet warm and I could wash them in snow before going to class. It was surprisingly more efficient than having shoes to wear. John was a hard worker. He left early before everyone woke up in the morning to get his job in another village a couple miles away. He would tell us day by day how much more money he was making than the other people there. I was really proud of him. And don't get me wrong, I thought he was a humble guy, but I always believed him to be a tad suspicious. My uncertainties about him were only increased when I saw him enter the abandoned cabin on my way to school one morning. I recall that day during school I breezed through the day thinking about nothing but what John could be doing in that cabin. There had been a lot of witchcraft trials recently, but all of the ones that I had seen were women being convicted. There was no way John was involved in any of that stuff. But just to be safe, I decided to check it out one night. I finished all my duties and chores, and I waited to depart until everyone was asleep. I wore the thickest shoes and coziest jackets I could find, made of the softest animal hair and the warmest lining. I was so scared of what I might find in my body was quivering almost as much as the weakest branches on the bare trees. The closer I got to the log cabin, the more I smelled a stench far beyond my recognition. It was so powerful that it overcame the waxy cow manure you would occasionally barf in your mouth from. Despite the smell, I arrived at the back door of the cabin after what seemed like hours of walking. Seeing no lock on the door, I slowly pushed the decaying structure of wood as far as it would go before snapping out of place. Stepping into the hallway of the long room, my body went dim. I felt an unwanted presence come over me. It was almost pushing me towards the door, but without moving me. I felt compelled to leave, but after all the mental preparation to walk from my house, I was not going to walk back with nothing. Scoping the long hallway, I saw different stalls connecting along the east and west halls. They looked and smelled like outhouses, with closed doors from the floor up, but leaving about a foot from the top of the door to the ceiling open. Each stall had a number carved in it, starting from 1 and ending at 12. I stood in the same spot for several minutes before seeing a key on top of one of the walls that separated number 9 and number 11. I tiptoed carefully and stretched my body up as far as I could get the expensive piece of metal. I prudently unlocked stall number 12. I was taken aback by the sight before me. What appeared to be pure human flesh consumed the walls and floor. A piece of the floor was cut into the bottom of the compartment almost as if to drain something, but with no openings in it. Clips of fingernails pierced 2 pieces of paper in the corrupt casing of the wall, with drawings of the faces of both man and a woman. They looked familiar, but I was too shaken with the rest of the scene to think much of it. Looking into each stall, I found the same thing, all that had different drawings. Each piece of artwork looked just as familiar as the last, until I looked my way back around the last stall, number 9. The illustrations were more than accustomed. I was so muddled with 2 pairs of eyes staring back at me, mostly because they were practically me. The individuals had to be my parents, and the skin in this stall had to be theirs. I needed time to process all of this. It was definitely something unexpected. I was so wretched with fear that I couldn't help but confide in someone. Digging deeper with this could answer a lot of
Questions that my siblings and I have been curious about since we realized why we were here. Because our real parents didn't want us. That is what John and Catherine told us, at least. Something snapped in Tom when I told him. As the eldest brother and sibling, he has known John and Catherine longer than the rest of us. Without hesitation, he spread the word to all the brothers and sisters.
It had to be that our real
Parents' bodies were sitting less than a mile away from us, and their killer comfortably sleeping in the same
house as us.
Understanding that we did not have schooling the next day, all the boys set out early that morning to beat John to the cabin. The girls stayed home to help Catherine with cooking and chores.
We consulted on the way over and came
To a unanimous decision. For murdering our parents, John deserved to die an agonizing, relentless death. We wanted revenge.
We found what stalls each of our parents were plastered in, stood over the holes in the ground,
and waited for what could have been forever and a day,
until I finally heard footsteps coming towards the back door.
A slow creak allowed the butcher to enter the cabin, and a guilty hand to snatch the poorly hooded key.
My heart skipped a couple of beats as I heard the click of one lock after another, slowly making their way up both floors. However, John did not open any of the doors himself. Instead, he unlocked all the doors and squeezed, walking by the time he reached the end of the hallway. A rush of courage braced me for nothing happened. This is as if low, grumbling, foot-stomping, chanting of gibberish and abnormal screeches are considered nothing. I thought at the time John was dying. However, after his little concert, he spoke in an authoritative voice. Mothers and fathers from the past, come and visit my soul. Your presence is stronger than ever. I've missed you, my subjects, very dearly. It saddens me that I cannot relive our time together. Agreed? First, a cold breeze came from the hole in the floor, through my body, and pushed open the door. Then, from the hole, a second breeze. I felt something on my arm against the wall, and noticed red liquid trickling onto the floor and back into the hole, disappearing as quickly as it did. Blood was spouting from every pore in the lifeless skin. John spoke again. Now, children, I can sense your presence too. Please come forward. I am anxious to see why you are in such a place that does not welcome you. Everything was as unreal and the unnatural nightmares that keep you from sleeping at night. Something had come over that propelled me out of cell number 9. I lunged at John with my blade, only enough to slit his arm. I think slitting was enough to get the job done, though. Something inside John put him into rage. He took a side of the incision and ripped the rest of the skin on his arm to the floor, allowing blood to gush from his inhumane body. And from there, the rest of my brothers and I continued to slice and dice all around John. He had finished the rest for us. By the time every inch of skin was subtracted, he fell without a fight. He let himself die right in front of us. Personally, to this day, I think him as a psychotic. No matter what the reason was that brought him to participate in such cold-hearted actions, I would never understand. I'm just grateful the rest of my family was safe. That was all that mattered to me, because that were all that I had.